It's the first of the month and you check your bank account. Rents come out. As per usual, you let out a deep sigh, but you carry on because you know what? You just got paid, you're doing all right. You've got enough money to get by, right? You then open your email and you've got an email from the water company. They have informed you that your bills will be going up by about 50 quid a month. You're like, okay, that's a bit a lot, but whatever. You check your electric bill because you have that going out each month as well. That's gone up about 50 quid. So you go through all your other bills and you realise that roughly your entire lifestyle, excluding, going out, socialising, food, everything has gone up around £400 to £500. So you're panicking. You're getting stressed, maybe a bit depressed. So you're thinking, well, what can I do to alleviate this? Who is out there to help me? You're thinking, do I go on universal credit? Because you finally meet the threshold. And maybe that will help you pay for your prescription. That will help you pay for travel. You're thinking, it might be a long shot, but why don't I go on PIP? You are disabled. Well, you think you have a disability at least. So you start to fill out these forms and you start to talk to your advisors. And one of them just suggests to you, have you thought about killing yourself? Hi, my name is Anusha, and I'm going to be talking about assisted suicide. I'm going to start off with trigger warnings. I'm going to be talking about disability, death, euthanasia, abuse from the police, the NHS, the DWP, and the care system. If you are triggered by any of these topics, please click off now. However, if you feel like you can continue watching, even just for a little bit, please heed this information and share it with as many people as you can. Not for my benefit, not for subscriber counts, because this ain't about that. For the fact that this is happening and this is scary. Legalized euthanasia or assisted suicide is not fit for purpose. Point blank, period. And the government are rushing through a bill to make it legal for assisted suicide to be available in this country. They have promised disability rights groups and individuals that there will be precautions and that there will be protections for people to stop coercion and to stop unfair deaths occurring. Let me read out the precautions that they've laid out in the bill. Doctors can bring up assisted suicide before patient has mentioned it. Doctors do not need reasonable certainty that applicant has 6 months to live, just a balance of probabilities. Conditions whose progress can be controlled, for example diabetes, may qualify for assisted suicide if other criteria is met. Committee rejected stronger language exempting disability. Health Secretary must provide regulations for independent advocates for those with learning disabilities. Put a pin in that. No higher threshold than Mental Capacity Act. No need to understand care options. Capacity assumed unless proven otherwise. Doesn't need to be beyond reasonable doubt. If doubts over meeting of the Mental Capacity Act threshold, mandatory psychiatric referral. No need to check for remediable, curable, suicide risk factors. Those with an impairment of judgment arising from a mental disorder still qualify. Comorbidities from a mental illness qualify for assisted suicide. No need for applicant to meet with a mental health professional. Training not specified for doctors. Maximum life sentence for coercion/pressure. No explicit ban on encouraging assisted suicide, undue influence or manipulation. Panel only needs to find lack of coercion on balance of probabilities, not beyond reasonable doubt. No requirement to inform family. No avenue for family to appeal if they believe the panel has made a mistake. No right to opt out or set policy for not providing assisted suicide. No guarantee they won't lose funding for not offering assisted suicide. Does that sound like... I'm going to break the fourth wall a little bit. I am struggling with this because, yes, it's bad or whatever, but like, I'm trying to sort of keep a level head and trying to sort of say the information, but I keep just wanting to burst out in tears, but I'm not going to. I'm fine. Because it's just hitting home a little bit. Anyway, does this sound like this is fit for purpose? Let's break that down even further. Let's examine this. Because in the context of the British system, as is, it ain't great, right? We always make jokes that, like, yeah, NHS is shit, innit? Oh, yeah, these lot don't know what they're doing. GPs never get an appointment, right? But let's be serious for a second. What is the current system like? What would assisted suicide look like in our current system? If you felt like a burden because you are stuck on a 93-week waiting list because you have long COVID, you could be offered assisted suicide. Those regulations that they laid out disgust me because it's based on probabilities. It's based on if you have gotten the right care or not. It's based on if they think you've got the right care or not. It's their opinion. It rarely has anything to do with you. It's if you are most likely going to die. If you are most likely going to kill yourself, then fuck it, kill yourself. If you are most likely to say, there's no cure, fuck it. There's no medicine, fuck it. That's what the regulations are. Now, I'm going to bring in context. Because this is not happening in a vacuum. This is happening because everyone is poor. And I think I might just make that a slogan at this point. Because everyone is poor. But they don't want to admit it. Because if they start saying the quiet part out loud, we might see more riots. And people will start pointing a finger. Like, I saw an advert the other day where it was talking about going outside, right? It's like, you must look at nature. Wow, look at nature. Oh my God, nature. Because it could help with your mental health. Okay, right? And this was an official advert, mind you. And one of the points they made is it could save us money. Go look at our colonised garden centres and nature reserves. Go outside, get sick from bird flu, and save us money. That is what they're saying verbatim. And this is not just assisted suicide, is it though? It's cutting PIP. 1.8 million people could lose PIP. Cutting universal credit, which I don't hear talked about. Under 22-year-olds could not qualify for universal credit. They're getting rid of the severe ban for people who cannot work, which has the most annoying acronym, which I can never remember. I think it's the capability assessment. LCWRA, I believe. They've already started to get rid of access to work for everybody. They're doing even more, though. They're castrating prisoners to deter people from committing sexual assault in their eyes. But really, they're castrating prisoners because, one, it's eugenics. I have the belief of, I don't care what a prisoner has done, you don't castrate anybody. And it's just because they're running out of space in prisons. They're running out of money. So better to castrate them and let them go than, stop perpetuating the history of violence against... Okay, anyway. What I'm trying to say is assisted suicide is just one of the many things they're doing to quote-unquote save money. Because recession, we're poor. They don't want to say it out loud, but we are poor. As a country, as people. We keep talking about a quasi lives, things are expensive. This is the result of it. And again, it's not happening in a vacuum. There's a little thing that started in 2020, some argue 2019, called SARS-2. Some people call it COVID-19. And during the first lockdown, hospitals were under a lot of stress, a lot of pressure. During 2020, 2021, DNRs, otherwise known as do not resuscitate notices, were given to COVID patients with learning disabilities. I'm looking at this argument from The Guardian. Fuck The Guardian, by the way. Fuck The Guardian, but, Let's look at this article. Vulnerable people have encountered shock and discrimination during the ongoing pandemic, says MenCap Charity. I'm not going to read the whole article, but you can read it for yourself. People with learning disabilities have been given do not resuscitate orders during the second wave of the pandemic in spite of widespread condemnation of the practice last year and an urgent investigation by the care watchdog. MenCap said it received reports in January from people with learning disabilities that they have been told that they would not be resuscitated if they were taken ill with COVID-19. Let's go back to the assisted suicide guidelines, right? What did it say about learning disabilities? They said that they have rejected stronger language exempting disability. Okay. Let's continue. Let's look at children. Now, this happened at home. So again, this is a little bit sore for me. A child died in a mental health hospital while staff were meant to be watching her. A 14-year-old girl, I want to get her name. Ruth Shamanovich died at Taplow Manor Hospital in Maidenhead on the 12th of February 2022 after a care worker responsible for one-on-one supervision sporadically left his post. Under 18s aren't yet eligible. Who says they can't be? I'm going to bring up another child. Rihanna Aluwaja died after being left unsupervised at a residential care home. She wouldn't have died. Oh, here's a line. A coroner has told the TCT, the Children's Trust, that if Rihanna had been properly observed, she would not have died on the balance of probabilities. There's that word again. I think what I'm trying to bring up with this is, one, context of where we're bringing assisted suicide in. We are not bringing assisted suicide in the context of care. We're not. We're not bringing assisted suicide into a culture that's goal is to care for the people. The goal is profit and cover up. And I understand that under 18s are not yet eligible. Not yet. But they're not off the table, which in my eyes, they're on the table. there is further discussions with people with learning disabilities, which means they're on the table. They're on the chopping block. And if we're bringing assisted suicide into a culture where death is already widely accepted towards those who are the most impoverished, it's not going to end well. I want to bring up this specific case of Ebow Graham because this case touched me. And this happened recently in April 28th of 2025. A hip-hop star, Ebow Graham, fell to his death after a string of NHS and ambulance failings. This man was having a mental health crisis and he had a whole family around him trying to support him and say like, hey, we're here for you. But again, that's not always enough, right? So they call the ambulance. They come over and they ask him, has he been smoking weed? Is this psychosis? The NHS dismissed him. They're like, oh, he's just having a meltdown. It's all good. He comes home, he jumps out the window. He's now dead. They said that when the paramedics arrived, they were dismissive and flippant and concluded the musician had a capacity over his care. 2 hours later, at 6:30 p.m, his flatmate, a GP, called the mental health crisis team urging for assistance as there were still grave concerns about Graham's state of mind. But instead of organising urgent same-day assessment within a recommended 4-hour window, put a pin in that, the crisis team nurse only offered an appointment for the following morning. Graham's friends eventually took him to a local hospital, but eventually took him home as he was agitated and restless while waiting to be seen. Once back at home, they made another 2 emergency calls. At 12:25 a.m. the next day, they called again. This time he flew out a window. Although he was rushed to hospital, he suffered a cardiac arrest on the way and died soon after. So there's several points we can bring up in that. The crisis team failed to see him in a 4-hour window. He wasn't seen at the hospital that he was taken to. 2 emergency calls weren't acted on. The paramedics, when they first arrived, were dismissive and flippant. So I think what I'm trying to get at is that there is no system that we currently have in this society where an individual would be cared for and would be able to die with their rights intact. There is no system that exists where someone could basically ask for euthanasia and there's nothing suspicious going on. The current systems we have do not care for the people that already exist in it. We are already here and they want to get rid of us. Now, as per usual, I'm going to do something a little bit different. People have been protesting this. Many disability organisations and individuals have been protesting, telling people to say no to the assisted dying bill. There's a 3-point argument that they have. The first argument is not now. The government are currently proposing millions in cuts to disability benefits. They will permanently end lives of many disabled people and push more of us into poverty. An NHS in crisis, the crumbling of social care provision and hospices reliant on charity funding all contribute to a painful death. Real dignity in dying means funding public services. Again, you cannot have assisted suicide and dignity in death when you aren't dignifying people as they're living. Not this way, and I really want us to listen to this. The bill will fundamentally change the function of the NHS and transform our relationship with healthcare professionals. Rushed and inadequate legislation risks lives. Put a pin in that. A private member's bill is not appropriate is not the appropriate process for a law of this magnitude. There cannot be sufficient scrutiny. We believe the inaccessibility words it's late. We believe the inaccessible and non-constitutive passage of the bill has violated the UNCRDP. Don't know what the fuck that is, but okay, let's break that down a little bit. What is our relationship with healthcare professionals now? Because if we're talking about Ebow and we're looking at how healthcare professionals treated him before his death, what do healthcare professionals think of us now? What do healthcare professionals think about black women as they're having babies? Or black chronically ill patients? Or black children? Poor children, poor people. What do they think of us now? My worry with this bill is that I believe institutions, because it ain't just the government, institutions are trying to deter people from getting help. They're trying to deter people from even waving a flag and signaling that they need help. Because once they do, well, we can kill you. So, a struggling mum with a child who has autism and a mental health diagnosis may not go for help, because if they do, their child could be taken to a hospice or a mental care facility and she might not see them again. That's what they're doing. Let's read this last point. Not like this. The bill is not fit for purpose, what I've been saying. Insufficient safeguards were weakened further at the committee stage, and vital amendments that could have been offered to us, additional protections, were voted down. As the bill currently stands, a panel of professionals wouldn't even need to meet the applicant for assisted death. This bill does not effectively protect us against coercion. Again, what are the biases that already exist in these systems? What are the biases that already exist in these systems? Who is most likely disabled and sick because of these systems? And I think if I were to make one criticism in the advocacy towards the assisted dying bill, is that race and class not being brought into this properly. Because if we look at how black people, and again, not just black people, but I'm going to talk about black people and sick leave. If we look at how black people enter the system, sometimes black people can have a mental health condition, quote unquote, because they oppose the state and their commitment to war and imperialism. Black people can have a mental health condition and be seen to be like unfit because they dare question someone's authority. How many black people have been falsely accused of a crime? How many black people have been affected by the bystander law and have been jailed by people like Keir Starmer? Too many. And the reason I brought up the castration of prisoners earlier is because it's an example of how the state will not hesitate to find another way to perform eugenics onto the population as a cost-saving measure. Mind you, what does that mean for sex workers? Because what is a sexual offence? What does that mean for people who are perceived as sex workers or drug users? And again, it's a hop, skip, and a jump. Because if a sex worker got punished over a sexual offence and was castrated, and then maybe became disabled from said castration, in a state that already doesn't rate sex workers, what would happen to them? What would happen to already disabled sex workers who have their benefits cut and they suffer a crisis in a hospital, maybe while working? What happens to people, and this is about me, who had to run to the hospital because she was having a crisis 1 year ago today? And it was summer, it was hot, I was in a low cut top. And a doctor tells me to go fuck myself. And you know me, as I say on this podcast many a time, I like to argue back. What would happen to me if I pushed it a little bit too far? What are the limits? And the reason I started this whole video with the idea of being a little bit depressed, can't pay your rent, kill yourself, is that that's what's happening in Canada right now. People who cannot afford rent, who cannot afford to be on benefits, are being offered assisted suicide. And I'm going to leave it here because I have already been talking for way too long and I'm going to have to edit this the fuck down tomorrow because today I'm going to bed. A lot of non-disabled people are chiming in. And I need you to shut the ever-loving fuck up. Because, yes, this may affect you, especially if you're a carer. But this isn't about you. Yet. A lot of this shit isn't about you. Let me take that, again, let me walk that back, actually. Yes, it is. Because what is a disability? Again, if you defy the state, what will happen to you? If you decide to join an action group, what will happen to you? But the reason why I need certain non-disabled people to shut the fuck up is I don't want you to be my quote-unquote ally if your framework is a family member that you saw become disabled. And I'm going to be a little bit sensitive here because I understand it's harrowing. I'm actually quite privileged in the sense that I've only seen one family member deteriorate, and that was from essentially racist abuse. So it wasn't even from a condition, so to speak, initially. A lot of these people are arguing, wow, it would have been so easy to give insert family member a dignified death when they got cancer or a chronic health condition. And I would make the subtle argument of how many of these people are telling the truth? Because how many of you really talked to your disabled family member? These are the same non-disabled people talking who cannot even mask up because of COVID. These are the same non-disabled people that make jokes at the expense of disabled people. These are the same non-disabled people. Try and keep up with me, I'm sorry. These are the same non-disabled people who constantly bully disabled people online for asking for provisions. I can put a couple of tweets up now. My point is I'm not 100% sure that I'm not 100% sure I want these people to be advocating for assisted dying. Because what are your motivations? I think what I'm trying to subtly say is I think a lot of people are okay with seeing their family members perish as long as it doesn't affect them too much. I think people are okay with seeing their family members, seeing people that they love die, as long as it doesn't weigh on them too much. And again, you cannot divorce your personal situation, and this is me being nice now. You cannot divorce your personal situation from the context that this is being brought into. You may be one of the lucky ones, and you may be someone who had a loving family, who their disabled family member you were close to, and they voiced this concern verbatim. Hey, I would like to die this way, but they never got to, and you saw them get sicker and sicker. You may be in that framework. I'd also make a sidebar and argue, were they arguing to die because they didn't want to get sicker, or were they arguing to die because they didn't have the care that they needed from the services that were provided? Lest we continue. But my point is that you may be one of the lucky ones. How many people do you think are going to get lucky? Explain to me the probability of that. I'm going to end this with 2 points, as per usual. The first point is I need you to share this information. As per usual, I'm going to make this into some shorter videos, and I'm going to keep spreading this throughout the month. I was going to link this to a song I had called Weights, and this is a song that's dedicated, funny enough, to impoverished people, to disabled people, and to hold the grief of all of this, and the grief of being actively discarded, and thinking about death in a very frank way. I was gonna talk about that, but I don't have the energy or the emotional bandwidth to do that currently. But the reason I bring that up is that this has been on my mind for a while, and I think it's shocking me how quick this is going through. But I think it's important to have this information, because one thing about governments that I'm starting to learn as I get older is that they don't like to be embarrassed. So let's embarrass them, let's bully them. And I'm being deadly serious here. That's a threat. Bully them. I don't think messaging your MP with facts and figures and whatever. Your MP's already made their mind up. They've been offered a profit sum in the background. But we can embarrass them. We can fucking embarrass them. This bill can't go through. It cannot go through. And we must understand that people will always come over profits. However, and this is the second point, we also live in a fascist state. Americans also said that Trump shouldn't be president, and look what happened. To be honest, the rhyme was on the wall with that one, but I digress. If this ends up happening, I think we as a community, as marginalised people, as black people, as poor people, we need to step our game up. We need to sort of ensure that people don't die from this, that we can save as many lives as possible. I don't know how, but we're going to have to try. Because I, myself, I'm having to continually fight people like social services, like the NHS, like the DWP, to just get basic things done. Like, I'm experiencing it myself. If we add assisted suicide to the ring, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't. And I don't want us to lose our parents, our siblings, our best friends. I don't want you to lose your life. You deserve dignity, but to be quite honest, you deserve to fight for it. And I think we need to start getting angrier, and we need to start fighting for it. Oh, this has been a lot. I'm keeping that in. That killed me. If you've got to the end, thank you for listening. Thank you for sticking with me. Thank you for, bearing with me and all my confuddled thoughts. What I will say, and this is a little bit of an addendum, before you do anything, make sure you look after yourself for a little bit. Before you fight, before you, join the fight, you got to make sure that you have self-care plans in place. I'm going to embarrass myself as a little, just to lighten the mood. So whenever I get this sad, like I've been big sad over the weekend, whenever I get this sad, I, for some reason, watch 50 Shades of Grey. It is one of the worst things I've seen. It is like eating plain toast. But for some reason, I will sit down and I will put 50 Shades of Grey on from start to finish. And I'll be like, yep, absolutely. And I just watch it like just with my drink of water. And then after all of that, I then spend the next 3 hours of my life listening to Dan Olsen's breakdown of 50 Shades of Grey. Straight after. Soon as 50 Shades freed, done, shut down, we then put on Dan Olsen's video and I spend the next 3 hours doing that. I don't know why I do it. It is just such a comfort for me. Other comforting things, watching people speedrun The Simpsons Hit and Run. I don't know if that's a neurodivergent thing, but we move. I like watching people speedrun like and cheat on games. That's like become a weird hobby of mine. I like watching people fail at Crash Bandicoot because I've completed it, ha ha ha. But watching people fail it is also quite funny. I like playing Lego Star Wars. I like playing Lego Incredibles. I almost finished the game, so that's exciting. So yeah, I also like watching people play the Brats. That's funny. Yeah, like especially I like watching queer people play Brats because we play Brats differently because we have style. Anyway, I'm gonna go. It's been 45 minutes. I need to rest my voice.